Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon to my viewing audience. Welcome to another episode of Breaking It Down with Boston. And I am so excited. Everybody knows that I'm a Gamecock for life. Whether I am talking family, finances, faith, it doesn't matter. I'm a Gamecock. And today I have an I'm so excited. Like I have such a great guest for us today to have some really frank, wonderful conversations, not just basketball, but about life, about faith, about finances, about all the good things that we share here. But I am privileged to welcome Bakari Sellers. I mean, most people know him, prominent American attorney, great, brilliant commentator, the youngest, made history, the youngest African American elected to official office in the United States when he won his South Carolina seat at the age of 22. Now tell me, what was I doing at that age? What was I doing at that age? Not as good as he was. But you know what? Following his political career, Bakari became a well-known commentator. And I think that's where after watching him, observing him as a great Gamecock fan, start to and get to know him a little better, I got excited about it because everybody knows, Aliyah is heading in that commentating
Yes.
arena. And he's a great family man, 3 children and a wonderful wife, and he is just I'm excited to have him. So
Thank
Bakari,
you.
welcome, 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 welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I want you to know that I was supposed to be on CNN this afternoon during the taping time, and I said I can't do it because I got to be on with Miss Boston. When I got the invitation, I told Coach that I was coming on your show, and I'm just excited. Thank you so much for thinking about me.
Well, I am so excited to have you, and we'll probably touch basketball for a little bit. But
Sure.
this podcast started because we wanted to share information with our audience. People look at us in life and they wonder. Sometimes they see people who have been there. They hear your story. They see who you are, but they don't know that backstory. How has your faith shaped who you have become? And I start with that question because everything for me centers around faith.
Yeah, no, everything for me centers around faith. My faith is something that I was born into, something that's been ingrained into me. It's been passed down. My grandfather, on my mother's side, was a Baptist minister. When I was growing up, I remember when we would come to South Carolina, we lived in Greensboro, North Carolina. When I would come to South Carolina during the summers, I would hate it because on Sundays, we had so much fun, but on Sundays, we would have to go to the 8 a.m. service at Bethel AME, and then we go to the 10 a.m. service at Rome Baptist Church. And so we got all of it. And then when we moved to South Carolina, on Wednesday nights was Bible study. On Tuesday nights, they had choir practice. On Fridays, my mom would be in the church and she would be the person who did the church programs and do the flowers on the altar. And then on Sunday, I was a acolyte or an altar boy because we went to Episcopal church. And so I'd laugh and joke and say I've been drinking since I was 12 years old because I drank all of the I
The
used to have
wine.
to drink all of the leftover wine in the church. And I never knew why I was taking such long naps after service on Sunday, but they used to just take me home and I'd lay down and be asleep for hours after service. So my faith is everything. I have people that I look up to like Tyler Perry and Bishop T.D. Jakes. And it's funny, Bishop Jakes will call me some nights at 11:30 just to check on me. And the first few times, my wife was like, "Who is that calling you?" And I have to leave the room. I'm like, "It's Bishop Jakes." She's like, "No, it's not." I was like, "Yeah, it's Bishop Jakes." And they help walk me through many of the stresses and issues that I may be having. And anytime, everybody's faith gets shaken at times. And for me, it's about trying to be the man of a household and take care of my wife and protect my children, be financially secure, live a life where you carry the burdens of so many others, but also be replenished and be physically, emotionally, and spiritually healthy enough to be able to do all those things.
Excellent. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about faith for everything that I do, because I tell Aaliyah and Alexis, when people look at them, especially Aaliyah as she's on this national stage, I say, baby, you know what? Never run from your faith. Never hide it under a bushel, because when people look at you and say, how did you get here? No matter how hard you talk about how much you practice and how hard you work, you are here because of God's grace and where he placed your footsteps.
Yeah, no, I
Nothing
mean,
else.
you know the saying better than I, but but by his grace. I mean, we could have there are mistakes that we have made. I mean, there are ankle twists that Aaliyah had that could have been 2 degrees different and been much worse. There could have been just totally different circumstances, but by his grace are we able to be here today. And so I recognize that. I also challenge those men and women of faith often, and the audacity of me, 39 years old and still very young in life, challenging people of faith. But I remind folk that faith without works is dead all the time. And we just can't be individuals who worship on Sundays and not do the work Monday through Saturday, which is, somewhat of what we become. We can't just focus on ministries and services that preach or teach us about worth and solely about what we can put in our pockets. We have to always be mindful of those individuals who don't have the same opportunities we do, and make sure we put our shoulder to the wheel to help them get out the ditch as well.
Exactly. And that's actually one of the reasons that we started this podcast, because there is nothing more important than sharing information and giving a helping hand to persons who don't know. And I recognize that where God has taken us over these last few years on this journey with Aaliyah, that I've learned a lot. I've been in contact with people that I wouldn't have normally met. And there's information that I've learned that I wanted to share. And a great part of it is on finances, on strengthening our faith, and then applying the faith principles that God has given us to apply to our life. And that includes our finances. A lot of times we think that financial freedom is for a chosen few. And a lot of times we don't realize that it comes down to the decisions that we've made and the things that we do and the things that we put in place. What would you say, or what can you share about any specific principles, financial, biblical-based principles that have helped shape the way you prioritize finances for you and for your children as young as the 5-year-olds?
Yeah, no, I mean, so it's about life lessons, and I'm still of a generation at 39. I'm a millennial. I think, Aaliyah is Generation Z. She's not a millennial. She's the generation right below me. But our generation, our parents didn't necessarily teach us about finances in the way they should have, because they were still working day to day to make it to provide for us. And so, Aaliyah and I are unique because our challenge is not to get ourselves out of poverty. Our challenge is to build wealth.
Yeah.
And those are different circumstances which breed different outcomes. The best example I can give you is you may recall that they used to mail you credit cards. Remember, they used to mail you credit cards in the mail, like actual credit cards. And my dad, part of his financial literacy to us was he would cut those credit cards up in our face, because my dad would teach us that if you did not have money for it, you should not buy it, which is fine until I graduated college and had no credit at all. Right. So I couldn't rent an apartment by myself without a cosigner. I couldn't buy a car. I couldn't do anything. So I had no credit and I had student loans because I was following my lovely good daddy's advice. So you just had to learn. And so now I'm very mindful of just small things. I mean, I monitor my credit daily. Not because of, I don't check the score every day. I check the score like every 3 or 4 days to see what's reported. But I have alerts that come to my phone consistently about things that may hit, things that don't hit, when scores are reported. I'm trying to learn more about how because that is the way that we live. Savings, I learned little life lessons. I mean, one of the things my father did teach me is about, and I'll share a story with you, but one of the things my father did teach me was about savings and making sure you have 6 months stored away for a life savings. I went to see, my dad was a part of the civil rights movement. And throughout the civil rights movement, he became friends with a lot of people. And one of the friends he became closest with was a young man named James Brown. And James is unique because James was actually born in Beach Island. He's from Beach Island, South Carolina. He's a great South Carolinian. A lot of folks try to claim him in Augusta, but he's really from Beach Island. But in his mother, when she was in a nursing home, used to actually be where I'm from. I'm from Denmark, South Carolina. And she used to be in a nursing home in Bamberg. And so James used to ride through in his limousine and hand out $100 bills and all of these things. But my daddy and James were really, really close. And I went to the Columbia Correctional Institution, which no longer exists anymore. It's the former jail. It was after James Brown got in that high-speed chase, and after he beat his wife and went on a high-speed chase and all these things, got locked up and sentenced to prison. And I went into prison to see James Brown, and we were in this little communal area where you go into prison to meet and see inmates. There's an open seating. And my dad walked over to the table, and I was with my dad. I was about 6 years old. And James was frustrated because I was there because his hair wasn't done. And James Brown didn't want me or anybody else to see him without his hair done. And before I left, James said, they used to call me, a lot of people call me Little Cleve or Little CL. And they said, he said, Little CL, he said, you think $1 million is a lot of money, don't you? I said, yes, sir, I do. He said, it ain't a lot of money. They gonna try to take it from you. And I was just kind of lost. He said, you need to find your favorite tree, dig a hole, and put your first $1 million in that hole. And what James was teaching me, one, was about taxes, because everybody will try to take it from you, and they try to take it from him. But two, he was teaching me about saving money. James Brown saved so much money throughout his life. And I always remember that life lesson that I learned from James Brown when I was visiting him in the penitentiary with his hair undone, that saving money is one of the most important things you can do.
Exactly. And I'm glad you mentioned that, though, because even especially with young children, that's one of the things that I've been speaking a lot lately on my previous podcast about not just saving money and investing, but about creating generational wealth, not just for you, but for the generations to come. In what ways do you encourage, as small as they are, your children to save, to spend, to give? Because that's an important principle of serving God. We are his hands and feet in this earth. And that's what he requires of us. Yeah. Infants, orphans, widows, persons in need. And he said, when you give to them, you're giving to me.
So I teach giving a lot in our family because we're so blessed. And my kids know that they're blessed. And so little small things, they're 5 years old, clothes, toys, abundance, overabundance, birthday gifts. We don't really accept those things. A lot of times we make donations to others. I mean, my little girl knows charity. I don't know if you know this, Ms. Boston, but when, my wife had a very rough pregnancy, great pregnancy, rough birth. She nearly died during childbirth, but she survived. She was in ICU the first 36 hours of our children's life. But Sadie, my little girl, she actually got a liver transplant when she was 10 months old. And we realized that when we were getting that transplant, that we were just so fortunate because there were so many people, although we were sitting there and watching our daughter literally wither before us and dying on a liver transplant waiting list, there were other people who were going through even more than we were. Yeah. And so we were able to get on our knees and bow and pray and say thank you, even during those times of great darkness for us. We started a foundation in her name at Duke, and she just transferred to Levine's Children's Hospital. So it's at Levine's Children's Hospital, just so that we can raise money for young people and families who are going through similar situations, particularly people of color. And Sadie knows that. We teach them the value of $1. They know how much things cost. Yes. They get a lot. They go on vacations. They fly in private planes. They wear Burberry. They do those things. I spoil my children because I want them to be spoiled, but I also teach them the value of things. And if we don't have it, we don't have it. They know what the candy that they want costs. And I ask them all the time. I feel like, I'm sure Leah feels like this sometimes too. And if she doesn't right now, she'll definitely feel like this when she has children. but we turn into you all really quickly. It's like, do you have McDonald's money? Like, you want to stop at McDonald's? Do you have McDonald's money? And so I taught them, like, they want to go to Target. I'm like, do you have Target money? Like, to tell me, do you? And they're like, you have it, Dad. I'm like, I don't have it. And they're like, Sadie or Stokely has it. And we count it out and we talk about those things. So you can never teach financial literacy too young. And I don't want my children to have a impoverished mindset. I want them to have a growth, thriving, successful mindset.
Absolutely. And I had a similar experience with giving birth to my oldest daughter, Alexis. I actually gave birth to twins, but they were very premature, 1 pound
Oh,
at
wow.
birth, and they were born 2 days apart, even though they were twins. And then my son died, and Alexis survived after spending almost 6 months in Miami Children's Hospital from a pound. So we too started an organization here in the Virgin Islands called Miracle Babies. Alexis's name is Alexis Miracle Boston, and we started the Miracle Babies Support Foundation that helps other parents who's going through those hardships. And we have a small hospital here, so the main purpose of that foundation was to donate equipment to be able to help children not have to be transferred out if it was all possible for them to be here. So Alexis and Aaliyah grew up knowing that we are striving to do things not just for us, but to help our community and to give. And that is a big part of it. Even with Aaliyah, with NIL money and her first year in the pros, she tithed every step of the way with every dollar that she earned, because she knew the importance of applying biblical principles to your life and giving back to your community. You know, you're familiar with this, you see it, you watch it. What advice would you give to some of these young people today, especially some of those that are experiencing, those student athletes who are getting NIL monies? What advice would you give to them? And even for those that are not getting NIL money, some young person that's watching this and thinks, you know, I'm working for minimum wage, how can I possibly save? How can I possibly start to invest? What would you say to them as someone who has accomplished so much at such a young age?
Yeah, I'm always cautious about giving advice because you never know what people are going through. And so I recognize my blessings and recognize other people's circumstances as well. I always tell people you got to find somebody you trust. Find somebody who has ordered their steps and you can order your steps behind theirs. Somebody who's kind of trailblazed or done the things you want to do. And I think that's kind of the first step, finding a mentor in this process, particularly because, look, we've spoken a lot about money on this and finances on this, which are important, but the most important thing you can have is not currency. The most important thing you can have are relationships. I tell that, look, if I go to a bank right now, I'm not getting a loan because my credit score, I'm getting a loan because the relationship.
That you
And the
have.
banker wants me to be at their bank. I don't have the same credit score they got. I just told you my story about how I got started late building credit, right? And I had $2,400 worth of student loans a month I had to pay for about 10, 12 years. So it's about relationships. And so I want people to understand the value of relationships. And then I want people to reframe their thought process because it's not about I'm tired of people every day waking up saying, I just got to survive today. I got to survive. I got to survive. I want you to own those days and I want you to thrive. I want you to focus on thriving and excelling and being the absolute best that you can be. The reason that Aaliyah is great at what she does is because Aaliyah went out every single day and it clicked for her. You could see when it clicked. It probably clicked the first college basketball game she played when she had either a triple double, really a
Triple
triple double.
double.
Yeah, I mean, it just clicked that you can be great at this, right? And you have to be willing to be great at something. And, I don't want it. And this is my basketball coach used to tell me this, which is why I ended up going to law school because I probably didn't learn it well enough. But stop trying to be good at everything and find something to be great at. And that's what and when you find something that you're great at and you find something that you love, people will pay you for it. It's the secret to life. Like it's amazing. You find something that's your passion that you love to do, you become really, really good at, and people will pay you for it. and you will live a very, very fulfilled life. It's not rocket science.
Well, you say you don't like to give much advice, but that was excellent advice because that shapes everything. And you're right. You have to. I embrace that concept about not feeling that we just have to make it true and barely. I told Aaliyah them from the time they were nothing, 3, 4, 5 years old. You are the head and not the tail. You are destined for greatness, and you don't put anything out of your mouth that you don't want to come true because your words are seeds. And I believe it's important to teach our children those things from the time they're born, have them say affirmations, have them believe,
Oh, yeah.
and then show them by the life we live and the things we speak to them. So we're not just telling them to say something for themselves, but we're being that example to them. And I believe that changes them. Aaliyah would go on the court and she would believe she was the best player there, whether she was or not. You had to come and tell her different. And even then, she wasn't believing it.
Yeah. No, I tell Sadie all the time, and this is our little thing. I talk to my kids with our foreheads on each other. So I get really, really close to my children. And a lot of times no one can hear what we're talking about but us. And when they lose focus or they don't, or their eyes wander, I'm saying, no, look at daddy. And I put my forehead on their forehead. And Sadie knows 3 words all the time since she was a child, since she was unable to talk, that she's smart, that she's strong, and that she's beautiful. And she will know every single day of her life that that's what her daddy teaches her. Now Stokely is the best hugger in the world. And you know, and then I don't know what I'm doing raising kids. I just try to make sure I'm raising good human beings, but they will be loved in this house. And Black children are so unloved when they leave our doors until you find a home like a Don Staley or somewhere like that, which is very rare. I want to make sure they know that they have a place of respite, that they have a place where they can come back to and be in the bosom of their home and know that they are loved here.
Absolutely. And that's one thing my pastor said some time back. He said, at least he talked about the Caribbean touch. We have a tendency of saying, okay, you're 18, you're out the door, you're on your own, do your thing. And he was like, we have to stop that. That's probably when they need us even more
Yes.
to continue guiding them. He said that sometime back at church. He said, this is a Caribbean thing, but you're 18 out the door. You're on your own. You do what you got to do, you know. And I tell Alexa, she's 23, 24. I said, you have a home here until you have yourself established the way you want and you're ready to take that next step. You have a home. So while you're here, learn, continue to grow, to save, and to do all what you got to do. Hi,
Say hey, Miss
Sadie.
Sadie. This is Sadie.
Hi,
Don't know if you
Sadie.
say hey, Sadie.
How are you?
What
You
does
are
Daddy tell you all the time?
beautiful.
Daddy says you're what? You're strong, you're smart, and you're beautiful.
And you are beautiful.
Okay.
How are you?
For me, thank you so much, baby.
But I am so happy that you really took the time to share with my audience because I knew how smart you were. I knew you were a dedicated father
And
and
I'm a fan of the Virgin Islands. I've been multiple times. Donna,
awesome.
yeah, Donna Christensen, Stacy Plaskett. I've been to the islands. I've been to the Ritz-Carlton on Johns Island, which was affected by the hurricane. I've been to all the places. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Well, I'm very happy that you love us here. I'm happy that you took the time to speak with us because, like I said, a lot of people, they see you, they see the professional side of you, but they don't see this side of you that we wanted to share today and just get some insight, especially because you have younger kids as well, as to the fact that it's not too early to start instilling in them God's principles, the importance of saving, the importance of giving, and being a blessing to others, especially when we are blessed, because that's something I teach my kids. I said, we are blessed to be a blessing. It's not by accident and it's not for us.
Definitely.
So,
I appreciate the faith. And you don't know how much, and you probably do, but you've blessed so many people just by being the mother that you are. And so it's easy to see the work. I tell people that you judge them based upon the people that they touched. And Aaliyah is just an amazing spirit, and she has brought joy to so many people. And that's how we know that Mrs. Boston has done God's work, because you've done what you're supposed to do with the people that you are closest to.
Well, I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. I look forward to when we will have another opportunity to have another discussion.
Well,
Until
I hope you're
then,
coming to the Final Four. Let's go. I hope you just come to the Final Four.
listen, my
Just
sister
come visit.
called me yesterday and she said, Cleon, we cannot leave the Final Four pass. We have to plan for it. And I'm actually leaving soon because I'm heading to the SEC tournament. I made a promise that
Oh, good.
would be my golf trip every year. And I told Don, I said, Coach, I'm coming.
There
I
we go.
spoke to Ari up to today. So I'm heading to the SEC tournament
Well, I
tomorrow.
will see you. I will see you this weekend, and I look
I
forward to
will
it.
see
I
you
love you
this
so much.
weekend.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
to my audience, I thank you so much. I pray that our discussion today has been a blessing to you. And I look forward to having you on another episode of Breaking It Down with Boston. Don't forget to subscribe, to share, and to like. Until the next time, I love you. Bakari, thank you.
Thank
God
you. I
bless
love
you.
breaking it down with Boston. I'll be back.
Thank you. Bye-bye.